I don't know if any of you remember this. Stevie Wonder, back in the day, had a little baby girl, and he wrote this song. Please turn your attention to the screen. So do you think Stevie Wonder was pleased by the birth of his little girl? What do you think? You know, his heart was bursting with joy, and so he sings and wrote this gorgeous song. And if you hear the original, it starts with the cries of the little girl just as she's been born. So you hear these sort of these little cries. She is so precious to him. In the reading we had today from 1 Samuel chapter 2, we have a new mum, Hannah, singing a song to us. If you were here last week, you will know that Samuel is a miracle child. She promised the Lord that if the Lord gave her Samuel, then she would give Samuel back to him. And at the end of chapter 1, she finally goes up to the temple and she goes and leaves Samuel there, and then she sings a song. Have a look at verses 1 and 2. This is a song. My heart rejoices in Samuel. In Samuel my horn is lifted high, my mouth boasts over Samuel, for I delight in his little life. That's what it should say, isn't it? She's got this precious little boy that she longed for. And so her heart should be writing a song about Samuel, but it's not her focus. It's entirely on the Lord, isn't it? Look at it. My heart rejoices in the Lord my horn is lifted high. My mouth boasts over our enemies, for I delight in your deliverance. This is not a normal song a new mum would sing. Is it? It really isn't. Let me show you how much of an abnormal song this is. 2 verse 1. She says, in the Lord my horn is lifted high. Now this idea of her horn being lifted high, it's repeated again in 1 verse 10. Do you see the king? His horn is going to be exalted. It's the language of the wildlife. It's the language of a rhino having mauled an enemy and pulverized them with their horn. And in victory, he lifts his head up, covered in blood and guts, because he's the victor. And she's saying, I'm that rhino. Now, I think the gas and air would have worn out by now. This is not a normal song for a new mum to sing. Have a look again, 2 verse 1. My mouth boasts over my enemies. And again, it's picking up the imagery of the last sentence. It's the language of an animal, a rhino, having its mouth wide open, about to come and clasp itself on its enemy to crush the final breath of its victim. This is not a normal song for a new mum to sing. That's because this is not a normal baby. See, what Hannah is doing here is delighting in God's big plan. She's delighting in the way that God works in the world. Now, I've got to confess to you, if this was my quiet time, and I got to chapter 2 of 1 Samuel, and I started to read poetry and song, I'd be like, oh dear, I'm going to kind of scan over this. Because often that stuff's the kind of dull part of God's word, and we've just heard that she's had this miracle baby and he's in the temple, and we're thinking, what's God going to do next? And so you want to hear what's going to happen with Eli and his wicked sons, and so you'd kind of go, oh great, oh there's all this, she's singing about something, and let's get on to the action. But if I was going to do that, I'd miss what is the fundamental part of this book in the Bible. See, whenever you get to something like this, you've always got to ask yourself, why has the writer included this? Why has God said, at this point in the storyline, I'm going to put a poem? I'm going to put a song. Well, maybe you don't know this, but 1 and 2 Samuel, really, they're one big book. They've been separated into 2, but they are one big book. And at the start of 1 Samuel in chapter 2, we have this song from Hannah. And if you go, we won't flick onto it, but at the end of 2 Samuel, just before the last chapter, David sings a song. It's a bit longer than Hannah's song. It's 52 verses. But if you were to look at it, you'd see he picks up themes that Hannah picks up on, and he expands on them, and he explains them. Why has the writer included Hannah's song here and David's song there that reflect on exactly the same themes? It's because he's teaching you this is what God is doing in the world. This is what I want you to teach you about God and his purposes. Yes, we are going to tell you some amazing stories, but this is what you need to learn from them. And the first thing he says that you need to learn is this, or the first thing Hannah sings about is this: the Lord is peerless. And you need really good eyesight to see that you should rejoice. The Lord is peerless in verses 1 to 2. I mean, Hannah's turnaround is quite astonishing. So you remember last week, 1 verse 8, that she was downhearted. But now in chapter 2 verse 1, her heart is rejoicing. It is overflowing with thankfulness. Now, it clearly is referring to the fact that she has just had Samuel. There's 2 bits that refer to that. So in 2 verse 1 it says, my mouth boasts over my enemies. And if you remember last week, Peninnah was mocking her and drilling into her and driving her into mental torment. And there is some sort of little victory there. And in 2 verse 5 as well, at the end of 2 verse 5, she who was barren was born 7 children. And she was barren, and she now has little Samuel, even though she's just dropped him off at the temple. She's saying her experience in this incident in her life is a small expression of how God works in the world. And so in verse 2, she says, you've got to understand there is no one like him. Look at verse 2. There is no one holy like the Lord. There is no one besides you. There is no rock like our God. She says, look, there's no one, there's no power, there's no one, nothing to compare to the Lord. Now I wonder, is that your view of the world? You know, as you get out of bed in the morning, as you make your breakfast, as you get in your car, as you get on with whatever your duties are that day, dropping off the kids, sorting something out, going to the shops, going to the work, do you go out into the world that is God's world, where he's working out his plans and purposes, where no one, no thing, no power, there is nothing worth trusting like the Lord? Have a look at verse 2. Again, how does she describe the Lord? He is holy. Verse 2, it's this idea of perfection, moral perfection. At the end of verse 2, he is the rock. He is a place of safety. He is the place of security. Hannah says, there is nowhere I'll find goodness as perfect as the holiness of the Lord. There's nowhere I'll find safety as sure as what God provides. You know, I wonder, as you think about your hopes as you think about where you put your confidence and where you find your safety, is God one of many options? On a level with all the other things. I've got my career, I've got my degree that I'm working on, I've got my family here, I've got my football team, although you might be burying your head today. And I've also got God on parallel with all these other things. And I think all of these things will keep me safe and secure. I just put a little bit, I'm not going to put all my money in on one thing. I've spread bet. If that is your thing, which it probably isn't. Hannah says, don't be so stupid. Don't be so stupid. He's not one amongst many. He is peerless. Not one of those things that we are tempted to put alongside God can actually keep us safe, can actually keep us secure, can actually save us. Now, it's just astonishing she says this. Look, she has just had baby Samuel. What a gift she is. And surely her temptation would be to say, I've got the child of my dreams, and so all my hopes and all my dreams are going to be rested in this boy and his future. How many parents struggle with that and try and live their life through their children, and all their hopes and dreams are resting on their children's shoulders, and they can't bear the weight of that because they're not God. It's crushing. See, Hannah could do all that to this miracle boy. But she says, no, that would be foolish. My hope and security cannot rest in him because God is the one who is unparalleled. I wonder, do you know this? Or are you like me, that you need to be reminded of this? See, if we know that our heart rejoices in the Lord alone and the salvation that he will bring and the promises that he will fulfill in Christ, then that will enable us to rejoice in every trial, as every trial takes away those things that we so quickly put our hope in other than him. See, the Lord is peerless. Rejoice. But then she goes on to say, the Lord knows and judges. Fear, pride. The Lord knows and judges. Have a look at verse 3. Don't keep talking so proudly, or let your mouth speak such arrogance, for the Lord is a God who knows, and by him his deeds are weighed. She says, beware of the arrogance of pride. Beware of living in this world in a self-centered and self-confident and a self-sufficient way that thinks everything I have and everything that is going on in my life is all down to me. Do you realize how great I am? See, there is an arrogance that can come with pride. And actually, as we push into 1 Samuel, we'll see that arrogance and pride often looks like people setting themselves up in opposition to God and his king and living as if God doesn't see how we live and he doesn't care and there is no day of judgment and there is no accountability to him. Verse 9 puts it like this. There are the wicked who will be silenced. And verse 10, those who oppose the Lord. See, verses 4 to 8, she highlights that there are many reasons why we become proud and arrogant. There's many reasons why we think we can be self-sufficient. In verse 4, she talks about power. The power of the bows of warriors. We're talking about the guns of the day, the army that had the most arrows was the army that would win. And I tell you what, as you read through 1 Samuel, you will find the arrows are pretty powerful. So powerful, you get to 1 Samuel 31, and there is the first king on his knees, having been pierced with an arrow, waiting to die. Saul. And his son Jonathan has the same fate. Arrows are powerful. They can make you proud. Verse 5, food, prosperity in food. Look at that, those who are full, having a fridge that is full. Can make you think, I'm all right. I'm self-sufficient. I don't need God. Later on in 1 Samuel, we're going to meet a guy called Nabal. He had a lot of food. You'll see him in 1 Samuel 25. I'm not going to tell you how it ends with him. But just to let you know, his name means fool. Verse 5b. You know, those who have lots of children, we've already talked about it, but we think they are going to be our security. They will seal our legacy. They are going to prove our worth. They are where we look for our hope. Beware of pride because of children. Verse 8. He talks about the poor being raised to be with princes and those on the throne of honor. Often we take pride in our positions in this world. Do you realize where I am in the company? Do you realize where I am in that charity? Do you realize the sort of things I do, the place of honor I have? All these things are tempting to make us full of ourselves and make us think we've got it all sussed. And actually, verse 6 can even make us feel like we're in control of our destiny with regards to death. You know, I can keep death off. Because do you realize what's in my bank account? Do you realize what sort of medical care I can get? Verse 3. So many things make us feel so proud or can lead to arrogance and make us think we are untouchable. But Hannah says, you are not self-made. If you think you are self-deluded. See, there are no equals to the Lord. He alone is the place of goodness and security. He alone is the place of rescue and salvation. And so setting up my life in such a way that I am proudly arrogant and opposed to God and his rights over my life, or so foolishly put him up on a level alongside all these other things. He's just the same. He's just on the level with them, is a dangerous position to be in, because 3b, the Lord is a God who knows. He knows. He's not a distant God. He's not a God who sets up the world and lets it go. He knows us all intimately and individually, and he weighs every single deed. As we read through 1 Samuel, we're going to see that, boy, he steps in to save his people, and it's glorious. But also he will judge the proud. He will stick a pin and burst the balloon of our overinflated ego. But that's not all she's saying in verses 3 to 8. You see, God knows he will act, but he's the God of reversals. Do you see that in verses 4 to 8? You just can't get away from it. 4 to 8, verse 4, the bows of the warriors are broken, but those who are stumbled will be armed with strength, the reversal. Verse 5, those who are full hire themselves out for food, but those who are hungry no more. It's a reversal. You'll see some of that in 1 Samuel. She was barren was born 7 children, but she who has had many sons pines away. It's reversals. Verse 6, the Lord brings death and makes alive. He brings down to the grave and raises up. That's an interesting idea. I wonder where we'll see that again. Verse 8, he raises the poor from the dust. He lifts the needy from the ash heap. He sets them with princes and makes them inherit a throne and a throne of honor. What Hannah is saying here is you need to understand how God works in the world to bring about salvation for the world. And so when we meet in 1 Samuel 17, a little boy who's been left in the fields because no one thinks he's important to look after the sheep, get anointed, and then rock up to meet a giant with 5 stones and wins an astonishing victory. It shouldn't surprise us, because God is the God of reversals. God is the God who acts to save us in a way that can only bring glory to him. And she says, this is at the foundations of the earth. Have a look at this, verse 8b. Have a look at the end of 8. For the foundations of the earth are the Lord's. On them he has set the world. What she's saying is that in the fabric of how God has built the world is this way of him working. And it's totally counterintuitive. I was... We had a meal with some friends about a week ago, and one of them was telling us about their family home. And in the foundations of their family home that her dad had built, in the foundations are the letters that her dad wrote to her mum during the war. Love letters. In the foundation of this house, they're still there. And I guess as you're building up this house on these foundations, what is it saying? What is it saying? It's saying, actually, this symbolizes what this house is about. You know, this house and this home where this family are going to grow up, it's built on the foundation of our love for each other. It's kind of sweet, isn't it? Well, verse 8b, God says, I want you to know what is in the foundations of the world I have built. The way I'm going to work out my plan, the way I'm going to work out glory going to my name, and I'm going to work in a way that totally baffles you, that absolutely humbles you, that you would never come up with. So all the glory goes to me. So you'll know I am peerless. There is no one like me. There is no one else worth trusting your life to. Do you know, is this the foundation of the reality you live in? You know, I was just reflecting on the whole reversals thing. And I was thinking, where do we see this? Where do we see this again? I'm going to show you in a moment. There's 2 places we see it, but I was just thinking, what happens when Bethlehem's most famous son, Jesus, is sat on the side of a mountain in Matthew chapter 5? He says these words, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth." He says God is a God of reversals. As we come poor in spirit, as we come humbled and ask for forgiveness, ours will be the ultimate reversal in eternity. Because this is how God has made his world. See, the Lord knows. He judges and he'll save his people. But finally, have a look at this in verses 9 and 10. He says, the Lord will exalt his king. Now these are astonishing words. Listen to this. 9b, have a look. In fact, I'll read from 8b. For the foundation of the earth are the Lord's. On them he will set the world. He will guard the feet of his faithful servants, but the wicked will be silenced in the place of darkness. He says he will rescue his people. He will judge those who arrogantly oppose him. But 9b, it is not by strength that one prevails. It will not happen in the way you expect it. Those who oppose the Lord will be broken. The Most High will thunder from heaven. The Lord will judge where? The ends of the earth. Now again, just verse 10, you could say, Hannah, seriously, Hannah, you've just had a baby. Really? How are you singing this? You've just had a baby. Shouldn't it be, isn't she lovely? And she's saying he will judge the ends of the earth. She's saying, look, in my experience, and as you read 1 Samuel through, you're going to see time and time again, I want to convince you this is what God is going to do. He will judge to the ends of the earth. He will thunder from heaven. We'll see a little bit of that in chapter 7. It's going to be very exciting. But this really is how God works. But the most astonishing thing is 10, the second half of verse 10, what she says there. Listen to this. He will give strength to his king and exalt the horn of his anointed. Now what we've got to understand is up to this point in the Bible, all those chapters beforehand, there is only the smallest of hint that a king is going to be part of God's plan. You get maybe a little bit at the end of Genesis 49 and Deuteronomy chapter 17. But you have to read the text really, really carefully. But Hannah says a king is central to his plans. And actually this language of anointed, the anointed one, the Hebrew, it means Messiah. Translated into Greek, it's Christos. She's talking about the Christ. This is the first time from the book of Genesis the term Christ appears. She says at the foundations of the world, God is going to work through Christ, his King. And he's not going to go on an astonishing victory through human strength or human power or human wisdom. The Christ will bring about a victory through humiliation as he dies naked on a cross. He'll be the Christ who, in the words of verse 6b, will be brought down to the grave and then raised up with a horn that has been bloodied in a glorious victory as he leaves Satan and death gasping for breath on the floor. He's the king who will open his mouth and boast, "Where, O death, is your victory now?" You know, I guess as we read through this chapter 2, it's hard, we want to be the servants, the faithful servants, but so often we find ourselves acting like the wicked. Proudly, arrogantly, trusting in ourselves. But yet Christ's victory is for all of those who will humble themselves and say, do you know what, I have lived like that, but I want you to save me. I need you to save me. May your victory be my victory. May your resurrection be my resurrection future. I don't want to have to fear judgment that will come, but the salvation and the glory that will come beyond that. I want to be there. See, Hannah's song says, this is how God works in the world. It is not the normal song of a new mum, is it? And yet in it she offers to us the way God will seek to bring salvation for all of us if we'll trust him. There's no one like our God. There's no one who knows and judges like our God. There's no one who will bring the victory that Christ will bring. And so we probably shouldn't surprise us that as we go into the New Testament, we meet another mum who sings another song that doesn't sound like the song of a new mum. Just flick on to Luke chapter 2, 1026. And there are two songs here. There's a song of Mary, who's about to be a new mum. And there is a song of a dad, Zechariah, who's just had his own little miracle baby in John the Baptist. And both of them break out in song. And if you're reading in your quiet time, you might sort of jump over it. But listen to what Mary says when she hears that through a miracle of the Holy Spirit, she is going to have a baby who will be the Son of God. And look at what she says in Luke chapter 1, verse 52. In fact, I'm going to read from verse 51. Look at this. He has performed mighty deeds with his arm. He has scattered those who are proud in their inmost thoughts. Oh, does that sound familiar? How about 52? He has brought down rulers from their thrones. He has lifted up the humble. He has filled the hungry with good things, but he has sent the rich away. See, Mary is saying the baby that she is giving birth to is the fulfillment of the hope of Hannah's song. And so when we get to Zechariah's song, there we go, they all can't stop themselves. Verse 68 and 69, look at what he says of chapter 1. Praise be to the Lord, the God of Israel, because he has come to his people and redeemed them. He not will raise up a horn of salvation for us. He has raised up a horn of salvation for us in the house of his servant David. He says, the greatest king has come, whose kingdom will never end, and he will turn the world upside down. As I was reading about Stevie Wonder's song this week, as I said, it was written about his daughter Aisha Morris back in 1976. But then in 2012, he performed it on a very special occasion. I don't know if you watched it on TV, but it was the Queen's Diamond Jubilee. And on that occasion, as he was before the Queen, he changed the words to his song. He changed the words to Isn't She Lovely to be about the Queen, to refer to her. Here he was before royalty, and he thought, I've got to change the words to this song. See, Hannah is saying to us, God is saying through Hannah, if you've understood who Jesus is, if you've understood the reversals he has come to bring, you can't but change the lyrics to the soundtrack of your life. From aren't I lovely to isn't he lovely? Isn't he worthy of all the praise? Isn't he the one I need to trust?